Hey, Captain Felix, it's your boy Dev. You'll never believe it, but Jenkins, it's...
Well, what is it?
Yeah, Jenkins killed himself.
Bummer.
Welcome to Film Breakers, the show where we think outside the frame to break down filmmaking on and off set. My name's Konnor Tierney, and today we'll be taking a look at throwing someone off a rooftop, like in our November short film, Jenkins on the Juice. Cool thing about this effect is that you can just pull it off practically, depending on what you're wanting from your scene, the equipment you have access to, and the amount of time you want to spend in post-production. First things first, choose your set. For us, we used a parking garage, which, filmmaker's playground if you ask me. I can make an entire video on parking garages.
You sure could.
I could. The great thing about parking garages is that they usually have this middle banister that separates the lanes of the garage at the top floor. If you play around this could easily be your ledge for the side of the garage, building, whatever you're trying to simulate. Our effect consisted of 3 main shots. Before he gets tossed, getting tossed, and the fall. The first shot's the simplest. It does the most to sell the suspension of disbelief. You want your audience to believe that the characters are standing on the edge of this building. So we had our actors perform most of the scene on the edge of the garage, with our cinematography clearly indicating that they were standing on the edge of this building, garage, whatever. That way, when the character falls, it's much more believable, because we have this establishment of geography. Now the second shot is easy. Just position your actors and camera as if they were along the real edge of the building, but along one of those middle banisters I described earlier.
And obviously, again, we can't throw them off the edge, so we found a ledge that looks very similar to the one up there, right down here. And this fall isn't very bad, and like we mentioned before, Hunter actually is pretty good at some stunt work. Yep. We're gonna hold it here because of the wind, and we're just gonna replace the sky with the green, or we're gonna replace the green screen with the sky.
If you don't have a green screen, set your camera a little lower to the ground to hide the rest of the garage on the other side of the middle banister. The banister is only about 4 to 5 feet off the ground, so it's easy for your actor to fall behind it, simulating falling off the edge.
And then just... That was... okay.
You were like, oh man, I need something to land on. 2 seconds later, so good.
Using a green screen isn't required for this effect, but it will push that look just that much further by keeping the background consistent with previous shots. To do that, get your shot as described and shown in the BTS clip, take a dry erase marker, make sure it's a dry erase marker because you're going to be drawing the banister on your viewfinder of your camera. Then go to where you shot the rest of your scene, and without changing lenses or any camera settings, line up the edge with the banister drawing that you drew on your viewfinder to get your clean plate.
We're in the same garage that we just were, so the lighting's the same. We did it on location. We had them go over the same cement block that's designed exactly the same. I'm currently lining this up. Normally, you should have just a dry erase marker, mark it on the thing. I forgot one, so yay me, I guess. But still not that big a deal. I'm lining it up right here, making sure that this line right here where he falls off of is in the exact same position on the camera. I'm lining it up here. I'll get about a 30-second clean plate, and I'll be able to easily mask that through, and we'll show you guys how to do that as well.
Now it's just a matter of keying your footage and doing any necessary roto work, and it should look a little something like this. Dang it, now I missed my mark. For our final shot, we used the green screen once again. Mathias, our drone pilot and cinematographer, got the shot of the garage from a distance, keeping it as still as he could, knowing we'd be using it for this effect. Now what if you don't have a green screen or drone? You can just skip forward in the video here to see how you can still pull off this effect.
That would be me, because I'm poor.
Yes. So if you don't have that kind of stuff, just skip forward. We'll tell you how to do without it. No big deal. So the actors performed the scene as usual, and when it was time for our character, Devin, to push Jenkins over the edge, the actor simply ducked instead. When we were ready for the effect shot of Hunter, who played Jenkins, we looked at the drone shot and matched the angle with our regular camera on top of the garage so that the lighting would be the same. We set up our green screen, had a Hunter pretend to fall, as we got a lot of ridiculous takes of that we knew we weren't going to use, but just to harass Hunter. Now, in After Effects, I just mask out the green screen, key out the footage, and make some adjustments to that mask for the shadow. Now we need to drop him from an appropriate height. I match his size using the other characters with scale, add a little bit of blur just to match it that much further, then put a keyframe with him at the top of the garage, move several frames forward, and bring him all the way down. Feel it out for yourself as it may be different. I added easy ease to the keyframes of the position to have the speed get faster as he falls, as this would happen in real life. Next, duplicate the footage and use the tint effect to make it a silhouette. Place a blur effect, in this case I use fast blur with repeat edge pixels turned on, to blur out the silhouette. Drop the opacity to roughly 30 to 40%, move the shadow a bit to the left to simulate some distance to the edge. Lastly, to sell the effect that much further, I used After Effects built-in motion blur tool, but it's not quite giving me the results I'm after. So in addition to that, I take the directional effect blur, put a keyframe at the start of the footage for 0 blur, and another keyframe at the end of the fall with the blur increased. And that's it for that shot, giving us this final sequence.
It's
Now, if you don't have access to a green screen or a drone, this effect is still doable. Thinking outside the box to find a creative solution for problems just like this is at the heart of what we do, and it's at the heart of what we do as filmmakers. Remember that middle banister we used earlier? Go back to that banister, place yourself on the opposite side as if you were standing in mid-air should that have been the real edge. Place the camera as low as you can with as wide a lens as you have, pointed up at the banister, as shown in this BTS clip here.
We have our camera going low so we can see the edge here when they look over the edge. Gives the illusion that obviously the camera is just outside the edge of the parking garage. So another little tip.
Now for us, we could have used a hi-hat or a tripod, but Mathias is really stable with the camera, so we just put it close to his chest. Now the banister is only 4 to 5 feet off the ground like we said, so it was easy for Hunter to roll off of it towards the camera as if he was being pushed.
3, 2, action.
Yeah, Jenkins killed himself.
Do yourself a favor. If your character's wearing reflective sunglasses, be sure you can't see your cameraman, particularly the crotch region of your cameraman, and the sunglasses. A, because no one wants to see that.
I'm gonna splay my legs like this just to really...
Okay.
B, because it makes it a really hard time in post. So this is what that sequence So this is what that sequence looks like if you're going to do it that way.
Hey, Captain Felix, it's your boy Dev. You'll never believe it, but Jenkins, it's...
Well, what is it?
Yeah, Jenkins killed himself.
Bummer.
So there you have it. There are lots of ways you could do this effect or effects like this. This is just the way we did it. Whenever you're faced with an obstacle like this, or any obstacle in filmmaking, take a moment, think beyond the frame. Possibilities are endless. See you next week.